A man and his girlfriend were getting undressed together for the first time. You know there is nothing funny about smallpox disease. The dreaded dicto disease, your belly sticks out further than your dick do. She has a problem with histolio? She must be lactose intolerant. My dick is so one time I was able to put it in a girl, her immune system tried to fight it. Like a frightened turtle. This has been one of my favorites for a long time. I tell it as an Ol and Lena joke, and butcher the voices. My granddaddy had smallpox before the vaccine. Had to be put into an iron hung. It brings back some memories. Did he have smallpox? Or did she have big holia? If I had $1 for every time I slap my girl's thighs every time I turn over in bed. Who am I kidding? I would be broke. Do women know about shrinkage? Are there many men who actually find it a turn-off if a woman has perfectly round fake boobs, and why? It's not only tits. Any unnecessary plastic surgery or aesthetic procedure is a big turn-off. It makes me sad to see someone spend money to make themselves look worse, which isn't always the case with breast implants, but is a lot of the time. They can look better when dressed, so I get the appeal of those benefits, but when intimated as like a prosthetic leg, there is no shame in having one if you need it, but I wouldn't cut off my healthy leg to have a prosthetic. I am pretty sure most men prefer natural boobs. For me, a turn-off is when nipple looks like a bullet on a saucer. I do not like fake tits. I'd rather you had no tits than fake tits. Fake tits are fucking horrible looking. Girls with A cups are still hot. Don't let the media fool you into thinking you need a big chest for any reason. You are perfect the way you are. A guy gets too drunk while playing golf and forgets what hole he's on. He can wipe that smile off his face. Good old 23. One's in the pink, the other in the stink. All of a sudden he is ahead. He is number 2. Should have asked the guy from last week. Love it. 3 holes are better than a hole in one. I thought it was my turn to post this joke this week. I'm old and I've never heard it and it was funny, so ignore the haters. Good to see you again. Don't come back soon. Joke so bad I wanna unfollow. I don't think a woman who sells menstrual supplies would be embarrassed or apologetic for her line of work. I find companies who sell menstrual products are usually quite loud and proud about supplying a healthcare necessity, and making the lives of menstruating folk better. Other than joke, but I'd change the bit about please don't laugh, and this is quite embarrassing. Boxer shorts is underwear for people who want to go commando, but don't like the concept of no underwear. I'm not saying you're wrong, but for me, it's about comfort. More room for my junk to dangle. Thinking of wearing a kilt? Know the point. You like your junk squished all day? Boxer briefs is the way to go. I'm the opposite. Boxers are the only thing that don't get bunched up for me. Just tuck the shorts into your pants legs when you pull all your pants up. They stay in place, perfectly comfortable. I want my junk to hang, but against fabric that's designed to be comfy, which outer garments aren't always. Snug-fitting boxers are the best of both worlds. Nah, it's a hygiene thing for me. I try to wear my pants shorts more than once before I wash it. It's more sanitary if you have some sort of barrier emo. Though at home it's more comfortable to lounge in boxer shorts emo. Couldn't be more wrong. Calling your wedding the happiest day of your life insinuates that it all goes downhill from there. I take that sort of thing as more of a best day so far type of deal rather than this is as good as it gets. The optimist in me would say that the qualifier up to this point or so far would be implied. It's kind of like how Apple always introduced their new iPhone as the best iPhone we've ever made. It's not exactly like they're saying the product is heading downhill after the new release. Although it might seem to be in some sense to some people. I mean, you can have the best day of your life but your life overall gets better afterwards. Maybe you never have another single day where you're that happy, but you could still be much happier with your life overall. I thought the same thing when people told me high school is the best part of life. Like, if you truly believe that, then what's the point of living afterwards? Shiva. The day I got divorced was a much better day. Our wedding was terrible, so I should be safe. Do people in electric cars listen to AC/DC? Probably a hybrid of both. They do if they're driving down the highway to hell. I was guessing electric blue while driving on Electric Avenue. That's a revolting thought. Depends on if they got the high voltage model. I was shocked by how much classic rock there was on my hometown station. Better not run over something that punctures the battery bank. The car will become. Usually they get thunderstruck down, as they should. If they bother doing that, maybe listen to ELO. It'd be shocking if they couldn't. Depends on how amped they're feeling. I think they're more earth, wind, and fire. It would take big balls. I need to get out of here. It's shocking how much I love these. I'm making them now. My baby's taking me home by Sparks. The ones I know I'll listen to Midnight Oils, Diesels and Dust. I guess you couldn't resist telling the joke. Alternative music, only while parallel parking. How do you call a gender-neutral person who is lactose intolerant? Smiley face. I appreciate the effort. Got a strong eye roll out of me. Good lord, that's the most dad joke I ever heard. Congrats. Person with a cold who is lactose. Non-binary samurai killing enemies? They saw this a few days ago. Of all the jokes circulating from Yamad TV at the moment, you pick this one? Weak. Ah, good old 837. A classic. The effort was there. The execution was May. This post is like the diamond mining industry, pretty boring. Personally, this might come offensive, but I don't get them. I would call them with a phone. With your voice. On the phone. What do you call? How do you call them? With their name. Thanks Dad. I've never been let down, you heart. If they are vegan too, then they are both non-binary and non-binary. I have had sex with an unnatural number of women. I had sex with an imaginary number of women. The number of real women I've had sex with is complex. I guess 0 is better left unsaid. The number of women I had sex with is irrational. I can't count how much bi I've had. The dating market is like prime numbers. It takes longer and longer to find the next correct one for each you pass by. The limit does not exist. 0. 0 is an unnatural number. I've multiplied with 4 women, added 6 kids, 8 extra responsibilities that subtract tens of thousands a year, had to divide 12 of my prized possessions, first 3 kids 14, another 16, oldest 18, last 3 are 3, 9 and S when it got odd. Drum, 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 drum. Looks around, nobody, fuck it, I tried. So, you have had sex with a fractional number of women? Or a negative number? Or maybe too complex to explain. It is estimated that 60 billion men have ever lived on Earth, yet the large majority never got to see a woman in yoga pants. With the disappointing quality of the content on this sub recently, this one is a true gem, but you never got to see your broad-shouldered, square-jawed wife hoist up a plow and prep 3 fields like it was nothing before giving birth for the second time that year and then making your dinner entirely out of things you guys grew or killed together. We all miss out on something. The absolute state of this sub. Quite a thought-provoking statistic. It speaks to the diversity of human existence and how individual experiences have been shaped by the times they lived in. Man after internet age has seen more pretty naked women than 99.999 of all the men ever lived. Greatest invention of all. Well, simple people have shower thoughts too. This is the best shower thought I have ever seen, and by God I feel bad for those who have not seen. Op got horny under shower. People with names like Brillin, Kennedy, and McNally, how's your life going? Horribly. Yeah, I changed my name to something much simpler. My buddy got named Bradley, yes, 2 D's, and just changed it to Bradley in his late 20s because he was sick of looking at it every day. You better answer me right now, Jake Wellen. My kid had a girl in his class named Easier. I had to hear someone say it out loud to realize it's pronounced Desire. Probably wearing Cookie Monster pajamas somewhere. Should prom post this in Utah. Michaela Jaden, Allison Ray Lynn, Kinsley Brayley Bryson, you get your butt over here this instant. They're at supper time RN with me, Ma and Pee-Pee. My daughters have a half-sister named Blakely. Makes me cringe every time I see it in print. Did we ever determine who, exactly, shot Kennedy? I feel like most of them aren't old enough to answer this question beyond Reddit yet. Seeing someone reading a book you love is seeing a book recommending a person. Finally, a real shower thought. Oh, this is a good one. A very interesting take for sure. Makes sense. Makes so much sense. Don't judge a person by their cover. I don't care what anybody says. I like this shower thought. Shitty people can still be reading a book you like though? Fuck. I like Ender's Game. Shitty people could be writing a book you like, except if they hate the stupid fucking book they are reading. I love this. So basically everyone here is recommended to me now. Unless that person hates this book. This sounds like a premise of a warm and fuzzy story. Till the US Army once gave a very passionate dissatisfaction to cyclists who tried to make leisure bicycling in the Arlington National Cemetery legal. Partially due to cyclists refuse to yield to funeral processions. It's illegal in all national cemeteries to engage in recreational activities like bike riding. The US Army once gave a very passionate for those of us that speak English. I love cycling, but who TF doesn't yield for a funeral procession? On your left, right, left. Of course cyclists refuse to yield to funeral processions. Some cyclists think they own the whole damn road no matter what. Dwight Schrute served in the US Army. Cyclists are the most entitled psychopaths on American roads. Classic cyclist Samirite. Till a missing pet tortoise was found in the attic 30 years later, alive and well. Is no one else wondering how a damn tortoise got into the attic to begin with? I don't know if I believe an attic with enough termite larvae in it at tortoise height to keep a tortoise alive for 30 years would have remained standing for that long. Well, took you guys long enough. I'm calling bullshit on this one. How did they not smell it? My mom has a tortoise and she is a clean person. Still smells like a goddamn zoo. Press X to doubt. As someone who lost their pet tortoise 22 years ago, this gives me great hope. There I am, brain the size of a planet. Till Hugh Hefner paid $75,000 for the burial spot next to Marilyn Monroe, stating spending eternity next to Marilyn is too sweet to pass up. Poor woman could never get away from the users. Even if you disregard all his notoriously creepy fucked up behavior outside of this is still a really fucking creepy thing to do unless they're your spouse. In a similar tone, Joe DiMaggio originally owned the spot above Monroe, but when the two divorced he sold the spot to Richard Poncher, an entrepreneur. His wife later told press that Richard wanted to be buried face down. Remember when people thought this pos was cool? Till Japan recounted its islands and found 7,000 it didn't know it had. There are now officially 14,125 islands in Japanese territory. Hey, we missed half of them the first time, no worries. Newly discovered islands are mostly uninhabited and have little or no economic value. That's like 14 salads. This is me when I find cash in old purses. My guess is that Japan is literally on the ring of fire. The many underwater volcanoes, which attribute to almost more than 2/3 of world's volcano eruptions, will cause land masses to spawn. Now, I don't know how they categorize islands, but 14K sounds like they deliberately went wild for the 12 nautical miles of territorial water advantage. How many soldiers who didn't know the war had ended did they find? Still, that 4 young people drowned in a narrow passage in an underground cave in Provo, Utah 2005. They think one person tried to turn around and the others were unable to pass her. They knew the cave was unsafe. One of the 4 had previously been to the cave before and had become hypothermic and passed out the first time. She's the one who showed them where it was and convinced them it was manageable. Going completely underwater in a dark cave is like the last possible thing you could ever convince me to do. There's a horrifying video about this on the channel Fatal Breakdown. The 4 teens were hanging out in an air pocket beforehand with diminishing O2, so it's probable she couldn't hold her breath for as long as when they came in from the outside. The exit hole was also very small and very easy to miss underwater. Once she went, it was impossible for the other 3 to pass her body and they all died one by one trying to leave. Till that the last person verified to have been born in the 1800s died in 2017. I remember when I was a kid, old people were the ones that were born in the 1800s. Imagine all the firsts that she saw in her lifetime. Morano lived through 3 centuries and witnessed significant changes in the world, including the rise of 2 world wars, the invention of television and the development of the internet. She attributed her longevity to a simple diet of 3 eggs a day, 2 of them raw, and a healthy lifestyle. The scope of her lifetime is absurd. She was married for 52 years to a man who died in 1978, 45 years ago. She's only been gone for 6.5 years. My family friend remembers seeing a Union veteran of the Civil War being honored on Memorial Day when he was a kid. That is wild. My daughter was born in the mid-1990s. I'm rooting for her to live across 3 centuries. Till when breastfeeding, the mammary glands will detect pathogens in the baby's saliva and create the needed antibodies for it in the milk. I'm pretty sure they can even mitigate against different pathogens for different kids if the woman is breastfeeding more than one simultaneously. Boobs really are magic. Is there anything that boobs can't do? The mom's immune system is just doing its normal job. It detects a pathogen, and it makes antibodies. It's trying to protect her, which also helps the baby because the antibodies are in the milk. The first drink of colostrum is one of the most important things a baby mama can do. Does it create them instantaneously for the breastfeeding session, or does it get them ready for the next breastfeeding session? Wow, I didn't know boobs were so smart. I'm not surprised, but I didn't actually know that. Again, moms are amazing. Edited out the unnecessary possessive apostrophe. Thanks for the memories. Moms are awesome. We're closer to 2,100 than World War II. 2100. 2023 77 years. 2023, 1945, now that I did the math, it checks out. The movie Jurassic Park is closer to the moon landing than it is to today. Yeah, that's not that weird to think. My grandfather was 18 at the onset and would be like 102 now. World War II was a long-ass time ago. The 80s weren't 20 years ago. We're closer to 2,100 than we are to the birth of Joe Biden. Technically, we are closer to the invention of time travel than any event in the past because it is impossible to go back in time. Until time travel is invented, we're closer to now than we were yesterday. It's crazy that World War II was in 1944 and 1999 was only in 1999. We will always be closer to the future. The past is 14. What movie are you convinced people only pretend to enjoy? The 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. The Purge. I love the concept, but the movie was unbelievably boring given how cool it could have been. I don't think anyone enjoys Schindler's List, but it's a good film to watch. The English Patient. I've watched it 3 times to try to see what others see in it. The pace is so slow. The main characters are dull. I don't get it. I once was hanging out with a friend and he brought along someone new. I didn't really jive with this new person, but my friend brought up that after I left this new person claimed I seemed like I'd really be into the saw this day. I found this to be one of the most insulting things someone has said about me. 90 of Christmas movies, most porn. Oh, you mean The Viewers? The Great Gatsby. I know it's an American, I don't get it. It's really just the OK Gatsby. What was cool in 2013 but not anymore in 2023, keep comment on. That shit was everywhere in 2013. Haven't seen anything similar in the last 5-6 years, I bet. Harlem Shake, GTA 5 being the latest GTA vibe. Hipsters were big in 2013. Man buns. Mustaches, tattoos. Liking things ironically, and before they were cool. Thick-rimmed black glasses with no lenses. The Chive. Did anybody remember when owls were super trendy in 2013? Like owl jewelry, stomp and holler music, and most things associated with the hipster, the built-in Instagram filters. Skinny jeans. I'm a millennial so I still wear them, though. Game of Thrones on HBO. Kevin Spacey House of Cards S1 was released in 2013. Facebook 100. Gangnam Style, Thigh Gap, Macklemore. What was once commonplace 20-30 years ago has now evolved into a luxury. Furniture made from real wood. Concert tickets. Back in the 80s-90s you could go to a concert every week if you wanted. I saw so many great bands for $25 bucks a pop. Low-grade cuts of wings. Brisket. Flag. Having ownership of the software you bought. Concert tickets. A house. Pensions. Actually owning now is subscription-based or packed full of ads. Film cameras. I work at a camera store and we have more people than ever coming in looking for film cameras. Even used ones. If you have an old film camera, check the price online, you'll be amazed what some of these are going for. Going to the pub regularly. The prices are ridiculous now. What would earning the equivalent of $70,000 a year mean to you? In today's exchange rate, that is 345k Brazilian reais. Divided by 12, it's 28k monthly. I live with roughly 10k monthly and I live a very comfortable life. Earning almost 3x that and I'll feel like a king. I make that in the US. Up until 2019, 2020 it was considered a great wage, especially in the area I live. My job was also considered a good job. Since then, with inflation out of control and the housing market in the shitter, it's almost barely enough to support a family and have any sort of life other than work and sleep. I know I'm fortunate compared to some, but man, I've worked so hard for 20 years to get to where I am and it feels like they keep moving the goalpost. I make just under that and ya boy still struggles. Pay reduction and inability to cover monthly basic expenses. What's something weird a guest did in your home and you didn't know how to react? Friend of mine had his buddy house sit for his family and the buddy set up all the Christmas decorations in summer. Ash their cigarette on the floor, then get really mad when we asked them not to do it again. Walked into the kitchen, turned the tap on, farted very loudly, turned the tap off and walked back out like we didn't see or hear him let rip. There was this guy my husband and I had met once before. We invited him over to watch a movie with us. We were new to the city, trying to make friends. He said he'd bring pizza. He brought a half-eaten pizza. He asked to use our laptop, was on FB the whole time and proceeded to fall asleep in our living room recliner during the movie. It was an odd encounter. My college friend came down to my dorm room sobbing because she couldn't stop sucking dick and then proceeded to eat my roommate's mac and cheese out of a pot while crying between spoonfuls. I was speechless. While on vacation in Mexico, a guy went to see the bullfights. I always heard the punchline is "Señor, sometimes the bull, he wins." In my part of the country, they are called Rocky Mountain oysters on the menu. As soon as I saw the headline I knew it was this joke. I remember it as a kid growing up in the 70s. The ending should have been, "Señor, it's not the bull that loses always." Wouldn't they be larger? Thoughtful face. 1000 recycle rate has been achieved. You have now reached level 9000. Bubba died in a fire and his body was burned pretty badly. Imagine the bluegrass song you could write about Cooter and Homer. Did they ever find out who it was that got burned? Probably one of your favorite campfire jokes. I love using the names of whomever I'm standing between while using my own name instead of Bubba. To keep me if you must, but this reminds me of a running joke my ER8 I had going. Any teen Sonny entered the ER who we knew or suspected was an asshole, we'd turn to each other, say "and" a shorthand for another asshole. Doctors out there, what is one important thing you'd recommend everyone for their health? Not a doctor but 10 years of dental assisting. Please floss your teeth. Between your teeth is the dirtiest. It is basically the equivalent of showering and not washing your butthole. Eat better and move around more. So many back troubles and mental health problems stem from lack of movement. Oral health is often overlooked, so this is for anyone who uses a manual toothbrush. If you can afford it, buy a cheap electric toothbrush. Most people aren't great with their toothbrush technique, and an electric toothbrush makes it so much easier for most people to get plaque off. Just 2 minutes each time, twice a day. Point the bristles toward the gum line at a 45-degree angle and let the electric toothbrush do its magic. Do not let yourself become a couch potato. Every year your own death's anniversary comes up and you don't know what day it is. Unless you die on 29th of February, somewhere out there's a person you share both your birthday and death day. Every year the anniversary of when this was first posted comes around, and no one notices. Anniversaries don't happen until after the event has already taken place. October 7, 1991 is not the first anniversary of my birth. It seems like you don't understand how anniversaries work and decided to let everyone on the internet know. My uncle knew when he was going to die. A judge told him, "I don't think you know what anniversary means." Hi, I'm Reggie Watts, comedian, musician, and author of Great Falls, Mount Ask Me Anything. What was your favorite episode of Comedy Bang Bang? After all these years, what is the current height of your fuck shit stack? What was the best worst part of being the Taskmaster for US Taskmaster? What's the stress level like running the house band for a late night show? How did you decide you wanted to take the gig? Hi Reggie, thank you for all the music through the years, glad you still make it to the CBB studio for the intros. What's the most unique thing about coming of age and experiencing self-discovery in Montana in the OOs? Do you feel you have a better creative foundation from your beginnings? I remember when you were talking to Tears for Fears on CBB, you mentioned you love Everybody Wants to Rule the World and its time signature of 12/8. Do you have any other favorite songs in 12/8 time? Thanks Reggie. I asked a German girl for her number and I'm still waiting for the rest of the digits. 1, 2, 3, 5, she said. Dear Leslie, no X for you tonight. Yes, best dad joke of the year. Xaya, was du die gemacht hast. German knock knock is there? Backhand them and yell in German accent. I'll be the voon asking questions round here. Best version of this joke I've ever seen. Ha 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 ha, this is very good one. 9, the only digit you have is 9. This deserves the dad joke of the year. I asked a golfer and he said 4. Nice one. Her English was very bad. She said how do honey. I don't get it. If her number is that should it must be a hot 9. You only got the 9, smiley face. 999. 9999. If you drive a Subaru backward, what are you? And if you drive one underwater, it's a scuba-roo. And if you use one to solve mysteries, you're a scuba-doo. A bus backing into the ocean is a sub. If it breaks down, use your Subarus. Heterosexual? Better without the spaces. Someone in South Dakota has that as their vanity plate on their Subaru. A Nabesel? Arbichi Mamboos. If you are a fan of Abraham, you might own a Jubaru. I'd rather be a Droff. You're a Subaru driver. Arbichi Mamboos. Even more effing irritating. Rubasu? In movies, when the hero needs to hide from Trick the bad guy, there's a hatch out the top of the elevator, but whenever someone's stuck in one, they have to wait to be rescued. IRL, the hatch is usually locked because the last thing you want is people crawling around in an elevator shaft. Well, what is the safest option? Climbing through the hatch is risky and isn't a direct route to safety. If the hero climbs through the hatch, it's so as he can do the heroic thing. For the average person, staying in the car is safest. It's the same as door control panels in sci-fi stuff. Shooting them always does whatever the hero needs, whether it's opening them or locking them. Gene Roddenberry once said the ship moves at the speed of plot. He was referring to the speed of the Enterprise, but in general, that applies to just about every feature of anything in fiction. The features of the environment fit the needs of the plot. Little Johnny was assigned to perform an experiment for his biology class. Little Johnny poured a liter of gas down a cat's throat to see what would happen. Cat made a couple of steps and fell unconscious. Must have run out of fuel, concluded Little Johnny. It's a crude translation of a Russian joke from childhood, seemed fitting to the theme. Also, correctly translating jokes is very hard apparently. Crickets actually do hear with their legs. Insect. You knew what a vuvuzela was 30 years ago? Oldie but the version I knew, it was not Little Johnny but a priest doing the experiment. The conclusion was if you remove the legs, God will strike him with deafness. Sounds like the logic of a politician. I thought Little Johnny was supposed to be a smart-ass little perv. Not a retard. I've heard this joke with frogs and just shouting. Never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a PhD and still be an idiot, stated Richard Feynman. What are some real-life examples of this? I work in mental health and have known so many healthcare professionals with advanced degrees who I wouldn't trust to take care of a goldfish and can't believe counsel people on a regular basis. Heard about a mechanical engineer who is a flat earther. So yeah, him, or any engineer, physicist, or astronomer that believes in that. The fact that a single one can get their degree and then turn around years later and believe in something fundamentally incompatible with the basic physics required to make sense of their degree is baffling. People who bought a house. What is the weirdest thing you have found left by the previous owner? My ex-wife found behind a drawer in a built-in cupboard a lovely lockbox contained several nice pocket watches and family heirlooms. The great part was that with a little sleuthing, we found the son of the man who originally built that house and reunited these items to the family. It was a wonderful experience from start to finish. A glass bowl. It was kind of pretty, with horizontal blue kept fruit in it. We thought about dropping it off at the local charity shop, but never got around to. One day I was at an antique fair and I saw for sale glass bowls that looked almost identical to ours. I went home to get my bowl and brought it to be out. It was a vintage or Force crystal bowl. The assessor valued it at around $. No longer keep fruit in it. Till Kate Winslet broke Tom Cruise's underwater filming record while filming Avatar 2. Winslet held her breath during a scene for 7 minutes and 12 seconds, beating the mark of 6 minutes Cruise set while filming Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Till Kate Winslet was in Avatar 2. Totally watched it, had no idea Tom Cruise is about to try to do all of the next Mission Impossible underwater. I disagree. I think Leo's record in Titanic is still going. She likely performed an oxygen-assisted breath hold. The world record for women for a non-oxygen assisted hold is just over 9 minutes. The record fake breath holding has to be Alien Resurrection. That scene annoyed me to no end. I am pretty sure people were even screaming underwater without drowning, and so I took that personally. Tom Cruise, I can't get to 30 seconds. The trick is not caring if you live or die. Till Quentin Roosevelt, son of President Theodore Roosevelt, was a pilot who was killed in combat in World War I. For propaganda purposes, Germany made a postcard of the dead pilot in his plane. However, this was met with shock by Germans, who were impressed that a president's son died on active duty. Theodore Roosevelt Jr. was the only general exposed to enemy fire on D-Day. He died of a heart attack 5 weeks later. Roosevelt was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously, 56 years before his father. Do you think we'll ever have a president's son in active duty again? Teddy was quite hawkish, what with the Rough Riders and all, and there had been a plan for him to raise forces to join in the fighting. But losing his son broke him. He died less than a year later. Till a Wisconsin man has eaten over 30,000 Big Mac hamburgers over 46 years, averaging 2 per day. He has only missed 8 days in those 46 years, including when his mother died as she requested he forego the burger in her memory. My grandmother and grandfather ate at McDonald's every day for about 40 years. Quarter pounder, no onions and a cheeseburger, shared small fries every time. Although she did occasionally go fancy and get their 50th wedding anniversary, and McDonald's closed their store for 2 hours so they could have their anniversary party. John Lennon didn't die. He's living under an assumed name in Wisconsin and eating Big Macs. Saw him in Super Size Me, which basically defended his choice based on his reported health. Apparently he doesn't get the fries, which is good. Surprised he's still going. Seems expensive these days, lol. Ironic, the McDonald's Burger King. Till just 54 of US adults can read at a 6th grade reading level. Apparently even the OP struggles with S not at the 6th grade level, it's below. 130 million Americans, 54 of adults between the ages of 16 and 74 years old, lack proficiency in literacy, essentially reading below the equivalent of a 6th grade level. Didn't realize half the US was on Reddit. What is a 6th grade level? These people can't read Ulysses? Or these people can't read Captain Underpants? Or at least? 'Cause that's a little, it's worse apparently, 54% are below a 6th grade reading. It says literacy is pretty consistent in the Northeast and Midwest, but poorer in the South and West. Go figure. Till that in 2019, Sonos used to have a recycle mode that intentionally bricked speakers so they could not be reused. It made it impossible for recycling firms to resell it or do anything else but strip it for parts. Loved when my Sonos put itself into recycle mode 2 weeks after purchase. I work on telephone systems. I have had vendors bring out new models that are technically capable of supporting the customer's existing older model handsets but have been intentionally disabled from doing so they can force people to buy the latest model handsets while the old ones go to landfill. We felt that the most responsible action was not to reintroduce them to new customers that may not have the context of them as 10-year-old products. Responsible, the most fanatically lucrative option. This is good to know. Now I know which brand never to buy. Fuck you, Sonos. Thanks to cell phones there will be people who have the same phone number their entire life no matter how many times they move. Great, then explain why I have some friends who always have a new number every 6 months and bullshit. Oh my god, what a hassle. You still have to if you go to another country, unless you're willing to pay a lot at least for European standards. Pre-cell phone era companies could subscribe to a WATS plan which would allow them to communicate locally with offices all over the of where the business was located or what offices moved, or open the phone numbers were pre-assigned and remained unchanged. Right, now our phone numbers are the modern equivalent of social security numbers, except we hand them out to everyone. Might as well have our phone numbers tattooed on our foreheads. No one from my teens has my new phone number. Good riddance to the fakes and to all the girls that rejected me that later tried hooking up with me on Facebook when they realized I was the nice guy that got away. The rule I before E, except after C. The full rule is actually, I before E except after C and when sounding like hey as in neighbor and way, and on weekends and holidays and all throughout May, and you'll always be wrong no matter what you say, except when your foreign neighbor Keith receives 8 beige counterfeit sleighs from feisty caffeinated weightlifters. That's weird. Let's not get feisty about it. Weird height, foreign leisure. Neither seize nor forfeit either. Yes, science is very efficient. Receive this. I'll give you that one with a receipt. It's more accurate to say I after E except when a C is involved, in which case all bets are off and just do whatever feels right. Man, rules like that are ancient. Old school, such a transient way of thinking. Aw shucks, gonna stare at the ceiling now and think of another. This has happened at least 8 times. This is the height of disinformation. My English teacher neighbor can confirm. There's a non-zero chance you pick up a die, roll a 6, roll another 6, and keep rolling 6s for the rest of your life. Monkeys and typewriters, just like the chances of getting eaten alive by a cannibal crackhead the next time you go to a gas station is low but never zero. Especially if you have 10 seconds to live. There is a non-zero chance that you will suddenly appear 1,000 miles out in space. If you try to calculate the odds of events like this, you often find that the universe isn't old enough to expect such an event has ever happened. There is a non-zero chance a crazy man dressed as a zebra could attack you on the street and cut off your dick, while singing happy birthday. There is also a non-zero chance of someone finding this interesting, thoughtful face. There's a non-zero chance that someone, somewhere, will read this comment and have an epiphany that changes their life. It's the same odds as rolling any other combination. What is one myth about sex watching porn made you believe? That you change position and holes like it's time to spin the wheel. I mean, I've had sessions where we did 3 maybe 4 different positions but damn, the amount of position changes they have in porn just looks exhausting to me now. Learning about sex from porn is like learning about driving by watching monster trucks. Harder is always better. When I lost my virginity, I thought she wanted me to shoot it on her face than in the rubber. She didn't. That anything adventurous is just up for grabs without prior conversation and crazy positions, pain, anal, oral, what's happening with my load? That he can get up soon and starts again but instead he light up a cigarette and just plays his PS4, skull, smiley face. What is the weirdest text you got that was accidentally sent to you? Uncle Dave found the pudding. I just responded cool. My butt cheek is tapping out Morse code on the toilet seat from a random number. A woman texted me apologizing for how bad the hookup was the night before. Someone sent me pics of a baby that died shortly after birth. It was pictures of the baby in the hospital that they were sharing with family and friends. I replied with sincere condolences and let them know it was a wrong number, just in case someone else was waiting for an update. No Gina, she swallowed them all. I told her she can't overdose on fish pellets but she'll probably get some bad gas. What an attention whore. A selfie of a lady who just got her hair done. I said her hair looked very nice and she had the wrong number. Some girl fake numbered a guy with mine. What's the female equivalent to a man's random boner? Sudden wetness and hard nipples. Sudden hard nipples, throbbing clit and wet undies, embarrassed smiley face, embarrassed smiley face, embarrassed smiley face. Probably like the horny stare with chill bumps that makes your nipples hard and you can't break it so then people start to stare at me. Random wetness, heat, pulsating, butterflies. Sometimes you just get a random zing through the clit. Awkward as fuck, especially if you're sitting still. If it happens when you're walking, you can kinda just walk it off. If you're sitting, you're probably going to have to clench your legs and wiggle around a bit. Counter question: does thinking about very unattractive things really make a boner, especially a random one, go away? Best way I can explain it is butterflies in the coochie. Literally a throbbing, pulsating feeling, throbbing clititis. Which billionaire or millionaire has actually done good to the community? Harris Rosen offered free daycare for anyone in the small town of Tangelo, Florida and ended up offering to fund college tuition for any Tangelo resident to go to a Florida public university. In 20 years the graduation rate went from 25 to nearly 100 and the crime rate was cut in half. Dolly Parton, Paul Newman, the former owner of the duty-free stores that gave away billions and only has like a few mil to his name. Sal Khan of Khan Academy. There should be more like him in the universe. George Lucas, most of that $4 billion he sold Star Wars to Disney for went into an educational charity.